Hello everyone, it's Foo here with another buff video for you, and I have a treat for your eyes today because we're considering the eyeball Pokemon Masquerain. This disguised donning moth is definitely one of the most interesting bug flying types in the game, and it's gained some buffs recently which I can't wait to talk about. But first, if you do like this kind of content, please leave a like on the video because it helps out the channel and lets me know what you want to see more of. But if not, that's fine. So, to judge the buffs, let's consider what Masquerain was like before Generation 7. Masquerain was introduced in Generation 3 as the evolution of the first bug water type Surskit, and it has this cool eye patterning to intimidate its foes. Bug flying type is nothing new, and it gives it a ton of weaknesses, so it really needs something special to stand out. And that does not come with its stats, which are mediocre across the board. It doesn't really have any standout stats, and it's got a particularly crippling speed in combination with its poor bulk, meaning that it'll get taken out pretty easily without doing very much. Its ability sets it apart a little bit with Intimidate, at least maybe allowing it to take a physical hit. But its move pool is where this Pokemon really gets some interesting things, because it gets Quiver Dance. Though it's not the fastest or most powerful Quiver Dancer, it does have that Intimidate which may allow it to get a setup turn a bit easier than some other Quiver Dancers. It also has some surprising coverage with Hydro Pump and Ice Beam due to its watery beginnings as Surskit, which can be particularly helpful and definitely is something different to most other Quiver Dancers. And on top of this, as of Generation 6, it also gets Sticky Web, which is an invaluable entry hazard for offensive teams. But even here, Masquerain was never really the first choice Sticky Webber because there are faster options like Galvantula or bulkier options like Shuckle, so it didn't really get much of a look in there either. But has it gained anything in Generation 7? Other than just more competition in Quiver Dance and Sticky Web Rabombi? Well, yes it has, and the big one here is a stat buff. Possibly the most enviable stat boost of all Pokemon this generation. It gained plus 20 special attack and plus 20 speed. Basically any special attacker in the game would love such an amazing boost. This is just so good for especially offensive mons. Being faster and more powerful is just so useful. So if you were wondering why Guzma's Masquerain in the game was such a threat with air slashes that were so powerful, it's because of that buffed up special attack stat. Also, the Quiver Dance set is so much more viable now. Previously with 60 speed, even at plus 1 speed, Masquerain could get outsped by tons of stuff, but at 80 base speed it's much more harder to outspeed. Only the very fastest Pokemon or things holding a choice scarf will be able to outspeed. And with Intimidate you do get a decent number of setup opportunities. You're boosting your special defense while reducing your opponent's attack with Intimidate, which means that you may even be able to get multiple boosts up. The best set may be Quiver Dance and Webs on the same set as a lead, combining the two biggest selling points of Masquerain. This set is effective due to Intimidate and Hydro Pump giving Masquerain a decent lead matchup against a lot of Stealth Rock leads, and it's able to set up its hazards and punch a hole in the opponent's team, which is pretty cool. Its boosted special attack proves to be a threat on this set because if you do get your +1 and your Sticky Webs and take out the opponent's lead, you then have a very powerful Pokemon that will be able to get some damage on your opponent's next switch in. Now for the second buff, we're going to go on a little tangent with physical set buffs. Masquerain is by no means a physical attacker, so I'm going to capture all of the physical set buffs under one buff, kind of saying that physical sets are a little bit more viable than they once were. They're still not super viable, but it would be remiss of me not to mention the plethora of physical moveset changes this Pokemon gets this generation. So firstly, Aqua Jet is now a level up move for Surskit, probably the most useful physical move for Masquerain because it's even useful on special sets. If special attackers sometimes they just need a priority move to be able to take out a severely damaged Pokemon, so priority moves are always helpful. The one thing about this one is it's not technically a buff because Masquerain already had access to Aqua Jet via egg moves, it's just Surskit now has it as a level up move, which is a bit of a change. Secondly, this one is a bit more useful, which is Lunge. This is the most powerful stab physical bug move that Masquerain has. But previously that was U-turn, which is weaker, and switch Masquerain out, which isn't necessarily what you want all the time. It does have the secondary effect of lowering the opponent's attack stat, which is great. In addition to Intimidate, you're really crippling their physical attacking power. So this move could actually be used on some utility sets, maybe in doubles. You could have a Masquerain to support with Speed Control and Tailwind or Icy Wind, and also Intimidate and Lunge to cripple your opponent's attack stat, which could be pretty interesting. Or in singles, you could use it with Infestation or Toxic and Roost, so that the opponent has no damage incoming to you and you're slowly crippling them down with Infestation and Toxic. Could be pretty interesting. Thirdly, we have Liquidation, a powerful water type physical move, but bear in mind that this does not get a same type attack bonus. It does have a chance to drop the opponent's defense stat, but only a 20% chance, so it's not a reliable utility move like Lunge is. Finally, Fell Stinger kind of brings all of these moves together, because this generation is a 50 power bug type move, so it's not that powerful, but if you manage to KO a Pokemon with it, you get +3 attack, which immediately makes Masquerain go from a weak physical attacker to a pretty powerful physical attacker. If you do pull it off, then you could definitely make a set with all the aforementioned moves work. So this is a real contender for a meme Masquerain physical sweeper if you have that Fell Stinger activate. It's really interesting. All these moves are very interesting moves to consider for Masquerain. I thought that I really should mention them because there are so many changes that are actually kind of useful. It's not a physical attacker, so damage output is certainly limited. But that's enough of the silliness. We'll now consider the final change in Generation 7 that has increased Masquerain's potency, and that is Z moves. So firstly, I considered which status Z moves could potentially benefit Masquerain, and I was slightly disappointed with the options, only because Quiver Dance is already great setup, so there's not much extra utility in status Z moves, although I was slightly miffed that Surskit doesn't get Splash, because Z Splash would be an interesting physical set option. You could try Z Rain Dance for +1 speed and a boost in power for water type attacks. It's annoying that this thing doesn't get Hurricane, which would also appreciate an accuracy boost. In this sense, Quiver Dance is better because you get the same speed boost and you get +1 special attack, which powers up all of your special moves regardless of if they're water type or not. So Quiver Dance is generally better. Or alternatively, you could use the Defog. This Pokemon could then provide Defog support for your team while also gaining +1 accuracy for Hydro Pumps, Air Slashes, or even Stun Spores to be more accurate. But Masquerain is not a reliable Defogger because you're 4 times weak to Stealth Rock. Or finally, you could use Z Tailwind to get a more potent speed boost than Quiver Dance and a 50% critical hit chance. But again, Quiver Dance is really better than all of these options, especially when you consider the offensive Z moves that you can run alongside Quiver Dance. And that's where Z moves really come into their own with Masquerain. It's potentially a very, very powerful sweeper with an offensive Z move. I think Waterium Z Hydro Pump is an excellent set idea for a sweeper, as water gives this bug a way to hit rock and fire types, which are usually very threatening to it, and also it's a powerful attack to hit steel types for neutral damage, which would otherwise resist its stabs. So it's really great. Obviously, Hydro Pump is usually inaccurate, but it's very powerful, which makes it a very good candidate for a Z move because it becomes 100% accurate and even more powerful. That Hydro Vortex hits like a truck. So I think Waterium Z is probably the best candidate, but alternatively you could run one of its stab moves. So it's got Bug Buzz and Air Slash, neither of which are super powerful moves. After a Quiver Dance they do hit hard, but if you give the Bugonium Z or the Flyinium Z and turn them into their respective Z moves, they become a lot more powerful and very, very hard to switch into. Masquerain even has useful situational coverage moves like Ice Beam and Energy Ball that can be turned into their respective Z moves for surprise KOs against dragon and water types respectively. So with all the stat buffs, great coverage and access to nuking Z moves, Masquerain sweeps are far more achievable this generation, and this Pokemon is so much better. It's really quite fun to use, especially with that Intimidate. It does set it apart from the other butterflies out there, so I really like it. I think the design is awesome as well, and it's got a really, really cool shiny. It's about time to strike fear into your opponents with this eyeball Pokemon, so take the opportunity. But that is going to be all for today. I do hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think about Masquerain in the comments section below. If you want to see more of this, consider subscribing to the channel and also dinging the notification bell because I don't upload super regularly, so if you don't want to miss an upload, it's definitely worth doing that. All that's left to be said is I've been Foo, you've been awesome, and hopefully see you next time. Goodbye.